All right, welcome back to another video, guys. So as we know, going forward this generation, it is still up in the air whether the mid-generation refreshes are going to be coming out. We do know the rumors for the PS5 Pro are out there, and they seem pretty legitimate, especially as we saw a leak of potentially a new PlayStation 5, a slim version that was previously leaked. This looks like the one that could be potentially without the disk drive or something along those lines. I know it looks like there is a disk drive on the outside of it, but potentially you're going to be able to take off the side casing and remove it. We don't know. This is all up for speculation as of right now, but that video was of just the casing of it. I know some people in the comments are saying it can't be real because he's moving it around with one hand. But from what I understand, that was just the outer shell with no internals inside of it. That was just the pre-production of that shell. So that could be real, it could be not. But the mid-generation refresh with more powerful specs, we have no idea if this is going to be coming, even though the PS5 Pro is in the rumors. And one reason why we may be seeing some mid-generation refresh is for Unreal Engine 5. We have now gotten the performance specs, the quality mode, all of that type of stuff for Lords of Fallen on both the Xbox Series XS and the PlayStation 5. And here is everything that we do know about it. It says here, on both consoles, we offer performance and quality modes. The performance mode goes at 60 frames per second, and it is a 1080p resolution upscaled, which is kind of the standard in the industry. And then they say the quality mode is 2K 1440p upscaled, running at 30 frames per second. But even if you play at 60, Lords of Fallen looks really good. And this is a response here from Saul Galscon, who is the executive producer of Lords of Fallen. Interesting things to take away here. 1080p upscaled at 60 frames per second for this game in the performance mode. I don't know if that is the industry standard. I can't keep track of all the games that have come out, but the performance mode, I believe, wasn't 1080p upscaled and potentially even higher resolutions for a lot of games at 60 frames per second. But then the quality mode, generally we've been seeing 4K 30 frames per second, but here they're going with 2K 1440p upscaled at 30 frames per second. I mean, I'm happy there is a 60 FPS mode. I think that most games coming out still do it. They have to do to get 60 FPS. So that means upscaling to 1080p. Do it because people want that 60 frames per second. And I think most people prefer 60 FPS, even if it's a 1080p, over just having a 30 FPS 4K mode. I mean, it also depends on the game. Some games it really doesn't make a huge difference. Some games you have that are coming out like Starfield, which is 4K 30, which I think is going to be completely fine on the Series X with how much detail there is in that game. But I think most people would have asked if they wanted 1080p 60 FPS for Starfield. They probably would have accepted that and wanted that over having nothing. But where it gets interesting here is that this game is on Unreal Engine 5. And they switched over to Unreal Engine 5 as they were going through the development. He says here, when we started the project, Unreal Engine 5 was not available, but we always had a branch with whatever UE5 pre-launch builds were available. We always made sure that the game was compatible when it was production ready. We just swapped the whole thing to UE5. The most powerful and, let's say, game-changing technology was Lumen because it allowed us to forego light maps the old school way to light environments. So they were able to use Lumen, which is super cool for lighting, and apparently makes a big difference. They say with Lumen, all this process is now in real time. So it was the most impactful UE5 feature for us. And Nanite is also great because you get to bump up the quality everywhere. And then on top of that, there's things like chaos physics, which helps with cloths and the clothing and stuff like that, and other improvements in the animation pipeline that make movement more fluid for both enemies and player characters. And here is the key thing. He says UE5 is a huge leap in terms of tech, and it's going to get even better. So this begs to ask the question, with more games trying to develop using Unreal Engine 5, is this going to push the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 to their limit, where we are going to be seeing more of this 1440p as the max resolution that these consoles are going to be getting with games in Unreal Engine 5? And even they're going to have to be upscaled, and the 1080p 60 FPS is going to be the standard performance mode going forward. Is that something we are going to see going forward? with UE5 games. We know on the Xbox side of things, I think the real test is going to be the Coalition. As we know, they actually worked on the Matrix UE5 demo, which was phenomenal. But when their games come out, when the next Gears comes out, how that game runs, what are the performance modes in there, and how the Xbox Series X is going to be able to handle UE5. I think that's going to be a huge test because that's a first party studio who should have a full grasp on all of the tools and everything that the Series X and Xbox has for developers. So we will see. But if it is going to be pushing these consoles to the limit, if that's something now in the developer world that they are going to start talking about and start seeing, would it be worth releasing a mid-gen refresh console, a more powerful console, to give these insanely good looking games under Unreal Engine 5 and just getting higher quality in terms of a performance mode, a higher resolution with 60 frames per second, and still trying to get the 4K out of it? That's going to be the interesting conversation, I think, going forward. But as of right now, Lords of Fallen in UE5, it is looking like it is making it difficult for them, for the consoles, to give that 4K output that essentially was promised at the beginning of this generation. Now let's jump over here. Let's talk a little bit more about Forza, because we talked about Forza in a previous video, and there's this whole debate going on with some of the features missing, whether this is something that warrants a delay of this game, all that type of stuff. I think, honestly, for me personally, I don't care. I actually think the argument is a little bit absurd, especially with the stuff that is missing. I think this game is still going to have tons of content in it, and the core game is there. And we are seeing some of these things here, even with the multiplayer reveal. So I hope they don't delay it. I hope they don't do anything crazy like that from what we have seen so far. But this is the multiplayer, and here is what we're going to be able to play once this game releases. Feature multiplayer, competitive racing, full racing weekends, open practice, qualifying, race strategy, spec series, which evens the playing field, and an open series like the classic Forza class-based. There's going to be pitting features. There's going to be Forza race regulation overhauled with machine learning. That sounds like super cool. However, that's going to work. Competitive driver ratings, safety rating for clean racing. You're going to earn progression on your car when you play Builders Cup, free play, rivals, and multiplayer. There's going to be a rivals mode that does return, and there's also going to be private multiplayer, which features a ton of custom game options. So if you're looking to jump into multiplayer right away for Forza Motorsport, this is the stuff that's going to be coming at launch. Me personally, I'll probably try a bit of this, but for me, what I want this game for is going to be that career mode. That's where I'm going to be putting the majority of my time in. And that to me is the core of the Forza Motorsport game, where you're just building your career, trying out all these different vehicles. I think that's going to be a ton of fun. And from what we know so far, the technology going into this game, it should be a nice change and feel different than the previous Forza Motorsport, especially with all the contact points on the tires. Now let's jump over here and talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. There's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of rumors going around about what is this game? Is it just literally DLC? Is it a full premium game? I believe Activision already confirmed it was a full premium game, but there were some rumors going around that they were going to be charging less than full price for this game, which they've already debunked, and we'll go over a tweet there. But first, let's talk about this. This is all the stuff that you're going to actually be able to carry over to Modern Warfare 3 for Modern Warfare 2. It says here, all MW2 bundles, weapons, operators will carry over to MW3, which is super cool. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't believe we've seen this in previous iterations of Call of Duty where you could actually carry this stuff over. I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And when Call of Duty does officially become part of Xbox, I hope they continue with this. Just, you don't need to release a brand new full price game every single year, even though this one is going to be full price. But I mean, with content that will not work in the new upcoming game, I feel like these games can last longer with updated campaigns and some updated multiplayer, maybe even like a 3-year cycle. I kind of hope that they would do that when it comes to Xbox. But I mean, we will wait and see whether they stay on the same strategy. I'm sure it makes so much money they may not want to change anything. It says here, all MW2 weapons will maintain their level status, including camos and attachments unlocked in MW3, and double XP tokens from MW2 will be available to use in MW3. So with stuff like this, with stuff being able to carry it forward, you would think that MW3 is essentially just DLC, and you think maybe you only have to pay like $30 or $40 for that. That was the rumor going around, but that is not true. We have this tweet here from Charlie Intel saying that Activision has confirmed that MW3 is a full premium release price at $70. Not surprising, people are going to go out there and pay full $70 for it, even if it is essentially DLC. It says, as stated in numerous Activision Blizzard quarterly conference calls, Modern Warfare 3 is a premium release. And I mean, that's the key right there. Investors will want this to be a full premium release with the amount of money it makes. They're not going to reduce the price on it because it would just cut their bottom line down. It says it will be priced accordingly at $70 US. So there you have it. I mean, this is probably disappointing for some people. For me, I was hoping it would be maybe a bit cheaper because it does sound like DLC. It's going to have a new campaign. It's going to have some new multiplayer maps, some new multiplayer stuff like weapons and skins and all those types of things. But overall, I feel like this is going to look and feel essentially the exact same as MW2. And we'll know more once we actually get this game in our hands with the beta and all that stuff that they do every single year. Now, we have some pretty big rumors here that I do see happening. First of all, Persona 6. We know that Xbox and Sega have a great relationship, and we know now that Xbox and Atlas, who are part of Sega, have mended their relationship in the sense that their games are now on Xbox. Whether there was a bad relationship previously, we don't know that, but games are now on Xbox, especially with the Game Pass stuff. The fact that they announced 2 Atlas games at the Xbox showcase, I thought was huge. And these games are coming to Game Pass as well. Persona 6 is going to be their next massive game, probably their biggest game. And you're expecting this game now to be released on Xbox based on the things that we have seen recently. And looks like that is going to be the case. This is according to Special Nick over at Xbox Era. And he said that he has heard that Persona 6 is coming to Xbox day one, but haven't heard anything about it coming to Xbox Game Pass. I don't foresee them getting this game on to Game Pass with the fact that they are already announced that the Persona 5 Tactica is coming to Game Pass, and then the Persona 3 remake is also coming to Game Pass. Getting Persona 6 on top of that would just be absolutely insane. But I feel like because of how big of a game this is, Atlas isn't going to do that. They know how big of a base they have in Japan, specifically on consoles like PlayStation. They're probably not going to want to ostracize them at all by putting it on Game Pass and maybe forcing some of these gamers to go out and sign up for the subscription service. I mean, we will see. There's always a bag of money that will get these games to do what these big companies want them to do, which is put them on services or make them exclusive. But I don't know if Xbox is going to be dropping the cash on Persona 6, but it'd be cool if it was on Game Pass day one. And then we do also have this rumor here, which gives, I'm starting to have a little bit more hope that this will actually happen because of what we've seen recently with Final Fantasy 14 and Phil Spencer and Square Enix now seemingly having a good relationship again, and Square Enix coming out and saying that they will work with Xbox to bring over all the games that are possible from Square Enix to the Xbox platform. But this is rumors circulating from Xbox Brazil showing Final Fantasy 7 picture meaning anything essentially. And you would assume that means that maybe Final Fantasy 7 Remake is finally going to make its way onto Xbox. And Phil Spencer said this when talking about Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake, that he's working on it. We saw the fruits of his labor when it comes to Final Fantasy 14, that now it is coming to Xbox. So maybe he's still there in the background trying to make some deals here for the Final Fantasy 7 Remake games to come on to Xbox as well. We know part 1 is out, part 2 is coming, and there's still going to be a part 3. So maybe there'll be something along the lines of like, once part 3 releases, Xbox gets a single release with the trilogy, or maybe they just randomly drop these games in onto Xbox at a random time once all of their deals are up, and who knows how long these deals are for. It says here that Hasbro Games says he personally thinks the trilogy will complete and then come to Xbox, but next month is TGS, and if Final Fantasy Part 1 gets announced, that would be huge. So yeah, that's another thing too, I think would actually be something that may be a massive surprise that Xbox is holding off on announcing, because I feel like Final Fantasy 7 Remake, the announcement for that probably will create a bit more hype than Final Fantasy 14, just with the amount of fans that were looking for and how big this game was when it did get announced with the remake. So they come out there on the TGS show floor and they announced that the game is going to be launching onto Xbox and maybe even launching into Xbox Game Pass, and may get people excited to go and sign up for the service in Japan, which is a big area that they are trying to grow in. So we will see, but who knows? I'm still a little bit skeptical on FF7. I'm sure there is some crazy language in that deal that PlayStation has with Square Enix to make sure that the game just doesn't show up on the Xbox platform. And I'm assuming that they would have signed this deal for the entire creation of the game, not just part one of the trilogy. This is why I think maybe we're going to have to wait until the trilogy is fully released before it does drop onto the Xbox platform. All right, let's talk about Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. As we know, we are waiting for an official release date for this game, and I think it is getting closer to that time. It's going to be at Gamescom at the end of August, and it is going to be playable at the Xbox booth. So I think that is a huge thing there, that they are ready and confident enough to get this game out into people's hands, which would signal that it is getting closer to that official release date. And now we have this here from Play on Koch Media Store listing Stalker 2 to be released on December 1st, 2023. And apparently the media store there has actually been accurate multiple times before, and they always have placeholder dates for the games that they don't have the official release dates, which would generally be December 31st of that year. And we have Andrew Marmo here saying that this is most likely accurate, as other titles have placeholder dates December 31st, 2023, and they've previously leaked dates, including Darksiders 2 for Nintendo Switch. So take a look at it here. We may be getting Stalker 2 in 2023. I think that would be insane if we got this. Another huge game on Game Pass in 2023 would just be the cherry on top of a very successful year, I think, for the service and for Xbox overall. But even if it gets pushed into 2024, I think that is fine, because a lot of people are going to be into Forza Motorsport. A lot of people are going to be into Starfield for the remainder of 2023. But hey, look out for maybe a release date being announced sooner rather than later. Maybe at Gamescom at the end of August, we will get that official release date for Stalker 2. But I will leave the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.